After being banned from country radio and taking a 14-year hiatus, the Dixie Chicks are now just the Chicks, and they're ready to take 2020 by storm. So why does the music feel so outdated? My review of Gaslighter is coming up next on Track by Track. Hey everybody, my name's Kyle and this is Track by Track, music reviews, news, and commentary. Thanks for tuning in today, and if this is your first time here, please take a second to click subscribe so that you won't miss future reviews and more. Anyone who watches this channel regularly should know that country music is not one of the genres I cover regularly or that I personally listen to with much frequency. As country acts go, though, the Dixie Chicks first arrived on the scene at the perfect time for me. I was working at a radio group when their 1998 album Wide Open Spaces blew up, and our country station was naturally all over it. During this time, it was inevitable for me to listen to the popular acts of the day and come to at least some appreciation of the contemporary country music genre. To that end, I thought the Dixie Chicks were a really good group. I had the chance to see them on their tour for the blockbuster 1999 album Fly, and they truly put on a hell of a great show. As it turns out, I was still working in radio in 2003 and had a front row seat for the Dixie Chicks' downfall. Personally, I didn't care one way or another what they had to say about the president or the war in Iraq. I felt that they were entitled to their opinions and they were entitled to express them. And of course, country music fans were entitled to disagree and inevitably boycott the group. In my role at the station, I had nothing to do with their music being pulled from the airwaves, but I fully understood the business reasons why it had to happen. Fast forward to the spring of 2020, and the Dixie Chicks announced their first new album in 14 years. Considering the political climate in America and the fact that it is a major election year, this felt like the perfect time for this group to make a return. And with an album and single title like Gaslighter, you just knew they'd have something divisive to say. More on that in a minute. Anyway, I had no doubt a lot of country radio fans and stations would say they were not ready to make nice, but the music business landscape has made a huge shift since the group was blacklisted from the airwaves. Now, with music streaming being the dominant listening experience, the people truly have the power. The Dixie Chicks could not have sustained their success without country radio in the early 2000s, but in 2020, the tables have turned. Always a lightning rod for controversy, though, the group has recently tried to get ahead of any potential PR fiascos in the wake of the Black Lives Matter movement by dropping the racially charged Dixie from their nom de plume. Not that the Chicks is an entirely politically correct option, but for the moment, BLM has taken the place of #MeToo in the social justice spotlight. More on that in a minute, too. The truth of the matter is that while the Chicks were technically labeled a country act, their popularity far transcended that genre. The reality is they were and are a pop act, similar in many ways to Taylor Swift. Some may scoff at that comparison, but keep in mind, according to Nielsen SoundScan, the Chicks are the best-selling female band of any genre. That doesn't happen without developing a fan base beyond just country radio listeners. That's further evidenced by the fact that while I don't listen to country radio now, I've still heard their new songs on adult alternative stations, on satellite radio, and online streaming. Make no mistake, the Chicks intend to fully embrace that non-country audience at this point. The list of today's hottest songwriters and producers credited on this album are the proof. Teddy Geiger, Julia Michaels, Ariel Rechtshaid, and of course, Jack Antonoff are all on board to make sure that this release checks all the right boxes, particularly if they want to attract listeners that were in grade school the last time this trio had a hit. So, straight out of the gate, back in March, we got the lead single, the album's title track, Gaslighter. In the year 2020, that's a word that's as politically charged as any, so it is really pretty shocking that there's nothing political about the song whatsoever. In fact, if anything, the lack of political references in a song called Gaslighter in this day and age makes the track feel kind of dated. And that feeling isn't exclusive to the lyrics. Musically speaking, if you were hoping for a return to the classic Dixie Chicks sound from 15 to 20 years ago, Gaslighter delivers. It's far and away the most radio-ready track on the album, and it makes me wonder if they were actually making a play to get back on the airwaves with it. Setting aside politics, both Gaslighter the song and the album are really more about relationship breakdowns, and specifically divorce, than anything else. That lead single actually opens the album and establishes the recurring theme immediately. The Chicks have always injected a lot of themselves into their lyrics, but this certainly feels like their most personal music to date. Personal to a fault, actually. While many people can relate to divorce, there's some references in these songs that are a little bit too elite, shall we say, for everyday listeners to be able to say, yeah, I feel you. Both the title track and Tights on My Boat make references to, owning a boat, which is typically a symbol of wealth. And during Sleep at Night, we hear about a backstage interaction at the Hollywood Bowl. Some of these moments, true though they may be, strike me as a bit too lifestyles of the rich and famous. But obviously breakups are fertile ground for songwriters, and the Chicks cultivate that theme across nearly every track on this album. Most of the time what we get is bitterness, hatred, resentment, and self-pity. For a song or two that feels okay, I can go along with the catharsis. But over the course of the album as a whole, it starts to become oppressive. I mentioned the hashtag #MeToo movement earlier, and undoubtedly we're hearing some Me Too adjacent stories in the narratives of these songs. But the problem I have is that too often the sentiment is so rooted in anger that it never gets to seek real solutions or personal growth. Take a song like Sleep at Night, in which we get the lyric, "My husband's girlfriend's husband just called me up. How messed up is that?" And then later in the song she sings, "I know it's not unique to me." Yes, exactly. I'm sure that many women can relate to that messed up scenario. That seems like interesting territory to explore. Instead, this song, like many others on the album, spends the bulk of its lyrical time talking about what a horrible person the ex-husband is. Late album track Hope It's Something Good puts the finest point on it and says what I've been thinking throughout the song cycle. In the middle of the track's passive-aggressive, self-pitying lyrics, we get one moment of undebatable truth. And now that you're done, I get to write the song. Exactly. He's done and gone, and the Chicks say good riddance. I'd like to think there's two sides to every story, especially when it comes to divorce. But in the court of public opinion, it's all about who gets to write the song. Which makes the closing track all the more of a head-scratcher. Set Me Free has a message that's more focused than many of the other songs, literally begging the husband to sign the divorce papers. Again, here's a concept I'm sure many will relate to. But after spending the bulk of the song cycle talking about what a terrible husband and father the guy is, now we get the lyric, "Just because you've been a bad guy, I've seen it with my own eyes, there's a good guy in there." I don't know, dude. You may indeed be a total asshole, but I don't blame you for holding out on signing after that 11-song beatdown, well-deserved as it may be. The one song that seems to strike the best balance, though, is Everybody Loves You. Here they sing about the difficulty of going through a breakup with someone that all their friends love. Again, that's a common scenario and one of the great challenges in many splits. And while the song does the best job of navigating the complexities of a divorce, the irony is that it's also the one track on the album which the Chicks didn't write. Now obviously there's a place for anger in any breakup, but it's the moments on this album where the songs are about moving on and finding your strength that I feel like it has something more productive to say. My Best Friend's Wedding tells a story of marriage and divorce and then finding love and happiness again in one of the few moments of genuine positivity on the album. On Texas Man, we get the acknowledgement of being a bit, quote, unraveled, but also being stronger for it and looking for a real man that can handle that strength. It's one of the best songs on this album. The most effective celebrations of strength on the album, though, are certainly the songs For Her and the somewhat understated Juliana Calm Down. Both tracks find the Chicks channeling Alanis Morissette's style, vocally and thematically for sure, but definitely in the list maker mode on Juliana. These songs are all about encouraging and empowering other women. And I don't know, that seems like more of the right thing to do in 2020. Speaking of the right thing to do in 2020, it must be said that the fact that March March is the only politically themed song on this album is both surprising and a massive missed opportunity. For one of the most outspoken groups of women in music to lump topics like gun control and climate change together in a song as toothless as this seems like a crime. To imply that she's an army of one, or that she will march to my own drum, is kind of insulting to the larger movements that have grown well beyond the fringes. That idea might have rang true with the Dixie chicks of the early 2000s, but the chicks of today should know better. When it comes down to it, I have to say I feel kind of bad for the chicks. I'm sure they had every intention of this album being the spark that would reignite their music career as well as launch them back into the sphere of cultural relevance. And as I said earlier, their previous sales status alone would seem to justify giving them another chance. Then COVID happened, and their planned release date got pushed back 2 months. After that, the cultural attitudes about racial tropes forced them to get a divorce from Dixie. In spite of all that, I wanted them to succeed. I like all their previous albums, and I think they're genuinely talented regardless of genre. But I'm not going to give them a pass based on that alone. I'm also not going to lift up this music in the name of the Me Too movement, because any sexual misconduct in these lyrics has more to do with infidelity than abuse. And on more than one occasion, the lyrics suggest that it is the women who have the power rather than the men. And while I fully expect these songs will resonate more strongly with female listeners, and that as a middle-aged male I'm more of the target of the lyrics than for the lyrics, I don't believe it is misogynistic to assert that most of these songs are just okay at best. And as I said before, breakups can be the creative inspiration for some powerful songwriting. As so-called divorce albums go, I thought Melissa Etheridge's Breakdown from 1999 was one of the strongest albums of her career, born out of the heartache that she was going through at that time. With the Chicks, too many of the songs on Gaslighter are so steeped in the bitterest of emotions that the overbearing spite leaves a bad taste in your mouth. On top of all that, there's just not enough good and memorable melodies to make you want to return to this music with any frequency. If anything, it makes you want to go back to their previous albums instead. At least those felt more like they were music for their time. Gaslighter, on the other hand, feels like completely the wrong album for our time. And that's a shame, because I really believe the Chicks had the potential to make music that could matter in 2020, that they still had the potential to shake things up. But while they've been penning tirades about finding their husband's mistress's tights on their boat, America has been dealing with significantly more pressing issues. So Emily, Marty, and Natalie, I hope you'll forgive me, and probably many others, for not wanting to attend your pity party. That's why I'm giving Gaslighter by the Chicks an X rating of 4 out of 10. It's a collection of mediocre, self-obsessed songs that unfortunately feel utterly tone-deaf for our times. Once again, my name is Kyle, and this has been Track by Track. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Plus, check out some of these other videos below that I think you might also enjoy. And of course, be sure to click subscribe, because true music fans always want new releases the day they come out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.